It's time to talk about the Chicago Street Course. So I guess we'll start with the Xfinity because that came before the Cup. I didn't start the weekend off on a good note. It's just not a whole lot happened in those first 25 laps that I thought was deemed good or interesting. Really, I will say, I think at some point when I heard that there was lightning, I was like, all right, I'm clocking out because I was laying in bed watching the race, and then I was just like passing out, and I fell asleep in between commercial breaks right after I heard the lightning strike warning thing, and I tell you, I fell asleep within like 2 minutes. That's incredible, but that's how little it gauged my interest, and it was great sleep. Well, like a momentary nap, but that was impressive. 2 minutes took me. Usually it takes me like 20 minutes. So that was cool. That was good. The race helped me with that, so I appreciate that. But yeah, the Xfinity race had nothing right home about, and it ended before halfway. So we're just making rules up as we go. But apparently there's a rule that says if there's unforeseen circumstances, they can change it on the dime. So basically, they have a rule that says, oh, we can only make it to halfway, or we don't. We just, okay, so screw the rules apparently. So Custer wins in another race where he straight up just didn't earn it. Didn't. I'm not going to count the Portland one because he barely ran, or he just got fortunate enough that Kligerman and Allgaier got together, and that gave Custer barely the win because he still barely won on that matter. So Custer has yet to really win a race that impressed me. So I don't know. Did he get another win at some point? I'm not remembering it. I don't know. But the Xfinity race was such a non-race, such a disappointing race for people, and just the product, it just was not worth it. Is it even worth it to even give it a rating? I don't know. But how that whole played out, some of that's on just the race itself. Some of it was just because of the weather. I'm giving it a fucking 0. That's literally a waste of time, waste of everybody's energy, and just nothing. And they couldn't have postponed it to Monday because they only had like permission to use that street circuit for just the weekend, so it couldn't even go past Sunday or Monday. I don't know. I don't know the whole logistics, but yeah, it's just a waste of time. The Cup race, on the other hand, was very spectacular. Though I do want to preface, I think it was very good under very specific circumstances. It took rain coming into factor, and the track being just atrocious to drive, or just very difficult. Some parts were way wetter than others, and even when the track was drying up, certain parts were still wet. So it left this very, very, really interesting type of race. And I think people are probably jumping the gun too much that this street circuit was a success. I think if it was under just normal conditions, it wasn't rain. If it wasn't raining, I don't think the race would have been nearly as good. It would have been probably the same as Xfinity. So I think this took a lot of it took a perfect storm, like in my title, to make this race really, really good. So I think that's my opinion on it. There's a couple of elements too that made this race really good. Even just the shit showness wasn't as just pathetic as I was thinking. A lot of these wrecks were because of just slipping the course, hitting the tire barriers, and getting stuck. But I at least appreciate the fact that when yellows came out, it was for stuff that made sense, where they gave the drivers an honest attempt to actually try to get out. And then when they couldn't, then they throw it. It's like, it made sense. It wasn't like the Roval where it's like, oh, there's a spin and then there's a yellow or other stuff. So I can appreciate that. So the couple of things that made this race at least tolerable was single file starts. I think that probably helped tame the insanity, which really makes you wonder, why can't we just have single file starts just in general? But we know why there's double file starts is because it's a gimmick, it's entertainment, it's just that's just what it is. That's why the All-Star race originally had it back in the day, because it was for entertainment, it was for the spectacle of it. Now it's just the extraordinary became the ordinary. Now it's nothing really special anymore. But yeah, single file starts, I think that helped. Where the restart line was, I think helped too, because it was coming off the last corner or something. It was a very IndyCar-like type of start where by the time the start happened, the field was a little more thinned. I think it helped with a lot of that, because if it was just double file, I feel like we would have seen just a colossal shit show. So if they go here next year, the starts might be really stupid. They're gonna try to do double file, but this also leads into the theory that probably if they went to Coda and just were single file, we wouldn't have had these stupid wrecks and everything. But it's hard to say because that freaking turn one is so just shit for stock cars that I feel like it probably would still be bad, but I don't think it would be as bad if they're just going single file. So I don't know. So I think those things helped. Also, the other thing too that made this race interesting was people can choose whether they can go on slicks or not. It wasn't like Watkins Glen where they had to hold their hand and tell them when to pit the switch. Like that just removes all strategy, all logic. So I appreciate the fact that they gave the drivers and teams options on when to go to slicks. That was cool. I appreciate that. It should be, like, I know that in other series that's just a no-brainer, but for NASCAR, they really handheld the drivers to, you know, make that decision for them and stop, literally bring out a caution so people can switch, which is stupid. So I appreciate that. Yeah, there was just, for the most part, I mean, we had, I think in total 3 green flag passes for the lead, which I think is literally more than North Wilkesboro, which I will always say, that might be the worst race of the freaking year at this point. I mean, holy shit. I don't know. I don't know. It's just, ooh, thinking about that. But yeah, it's, like, there's a lot of, like, nice pros to it. There is a couple of cons. When they made the decision to change the race length from 100 laps to 75 due to darkness, which I was even tweeting about it, and Jeff Gluck was making tweets about it before it even happened. So I'm not surprised they did it, but at the same time, they did it at a really shitty time because some people pitted thinking that was going to go to lap 100, and some people that didn't pit because they didn't. It caused this whole, like, it fucked up Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell's day, drivers that were definitely like with the fastest cars in the field. So that's kind of bullshit. Not a fan of that. How they just kind of change it on a whim while people are still deciding whether or not to go down pit road. So that fucked shit up, and that was bullshit. Not a fan of that. Then there was the big giant pile up, and then some people that were involved in the wreck still kept their spots, and it's like, that doesn't make sense because that's not how it usually works. And I'm just, and then because of all this weird confusion with when people pitted and when they didn't, when they changed the race length, that put Justin Haley, Austin Dillon up at the front. And I was not going to be very satisfied with that because I don't think none of those drivers were really a factor to drive. Like, they just weren't factors, and they were almost get a playoff spot because of that, which would have been bullshit and a waste of a playoff spot. Ricky Stenhouse, I was originally going to say it was a wasted spot, but he's actually been running rather decent this year, and I think it would have been in the top 16 regardless if he won or not. I don't know, but yeah. And then Shane Van Gisbergen, I don't know. The announcers were having a hard time saying it, so who knows which is the best. I always say SVG because it's just way easier. But Shane Van Gisbergen, out of nowhere, the man just drove his way up through the field. Something that really I haven't really seen anyone do in the whole race up to that point. He got himself in position, and in one lap, the sheer insanity is he passes Chase Elliott, who I was eventually got to second because Austin Dillon nailed the tire barrier because he choked. Because, oh my God, Austin Dillon's not as good as people think. He just passed Chase Elliott and Justin Haley in the same lap. The same lap. Just madness. Just absolute madness. This is what this driver was able to do. And then there was a caution as he was about to pass Justin Haley, which I don't know if he was able to, I don't know. There was almost debate on that. If he cleared him, if he didn't, I don't know. But then we had another restart, and then he just drove around him in like a few corners, and then I would say that would be it. But Justin Haley fought back, like he gave him an honest fight, and was able to pass him again, and then SVG passed him back, and then that was essentially it. But it was just, I mean, the man went through so much in this race he was another driver too that was just as quick as Reddick and Bell, so him getting the dub doesn't feel really like a farce or BS, because he was right up there with everyone else. And I mean, just the logistics of it, I mean, it's literal history in the making. I mean, I was sitting there being hyped as if I would see Truex win, like that's, or Kurt winning. Like it felt like that to a person I have no background on, just because we are witnessing something so rare. Because the last time a person won their first start was 60 years ago. Definitely well beyond my lifetime. And I mean, we've seen drivers get a win in their second start. McMurray and Trevor Bayne are examples, but nothing like this. Nothing on a street course. A person that's never hopped into a stock car has, I would say, no experience, but supercars are pretty similar to the Cup cars. So I don't know. It just, I just cannot believe we witnessed something like this, and he just straight up earned it. It wasn't a bullshit fluke win where it was like, oh well, he kind of BS'd it. No, it was just he straight up drove his way up through the field, which is something nobody really seemed to have been able to do to his level, and just win. Just, I mean, utter insanity. Just greatness on display, and it was so unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And that also elevates the race into another level. Not like another level, but like another point. Because that, it just, I've never seen anything like that. It's truly a special moment, and I think it's good for the sport. Finally, something good has happened to the sport. Because there was so much positivity going to Chicago Street Course. Then the rain came in, destroyed. I mean, literally it was like flooding at one point, and they somehow got it going. And just so much was going against it after all the positivity. And then for that to happen, I think it's good for the sport, good for just auto racing in general. Just a feel-good story. And it's really cool. It's, for once, my cold, blackened heart could say something was really good. I don't know. It was awesome. It was just cool. But I do want to. I slept on it. I really wanted to think about this because I really wanted to make sure I get my thoughts across and not just be a fanboy simp mode for the race. Because I do think there was a lot of things that helped it be good that I don't think is always going to be a thing. Again, if this race was just a normal street race with no rain, I don't think it would have been nearly as good. So if they go there next year, it may happen. It may not be as good, and I won't be shocked by that. But I think the rain added another layer to it, and I think that's what helped it. So, yeah, I guess I'll kind of partly eat my words. I should have clarified more that if it was just without rain, then it probably wouldn't have been as good. But I didn't factor rain to be a thing because there were records showing that like it was dry for like the entirety of that summer up to that point, and then those 2 days it was just like the worst it's been all year, and it's just the timing was just terrible. So I don't know, but I will say under normal race conditions, I don't think this race would have been as good, and I probably would have been given it a lot lower rating. But because of this very special circumstance and how it played out, who won to that, and just everything surrounding that whole story, that's awesome. I'm gonna probably give it a solid 7. It was teetering on that like 5 or 6, but then just how that ending played out and everything, I'll give it a 7. That's kind of with an asterisk with a couple of extra like 100 words next to it on why it's that high, but I haven't seen other people's reviews, so I don't know what everybody else is gonna rate it, but I think it just gets a little bit of a higher rating just for how it, just because I guess the rain element and it wasn't a complete like COTA, Circuit of the America shit show. I think because of single file starts, restart line, I think some of that stuff helped, which I think that should just be a thing. And also no stage cautions, thank God. I appreciate that. Make that be a thing for everywhere, not road courses. This is a start. Make it for everywhere, because that is just stupid, and it will always be stupid and dumb and bad. So I appreciate that too. So yeah, it was really good. I was very shocked. I was very shocked of how entertained I was and how rather decent the whole thing played out. So yeah, I don't know what more really I could say beyond that. I just think I just think if this is under normal, non-rainy conditions, I don't think it'll be as good. Xfinity kind of showed that. And if the Xfinity race was going to be anything like how the Cup race would have been, if there was no rain, then I'd probably be in a rant mode. Which that might happen next year. Or not. I don't know what I'm going to do with this channel. That's a whole other story. But, yeah, that'll do it. That's all I have to say. Yeah, 7 out of 10. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. See ya.